Right, so before we start, has anyone done a business plan before? Yeah, a few of you? No, it's okay. And the whole idea is assuming that you guys haven't done any of this. If any of you guys have done things as we go along, feel free to input what you found useful, what you know about it. But the whole idea, interactive, the more you put in the session, the more you get out of it. Okay. I know the session you just had last week, you had lots to think about, and it's about absorbing. So some of it will be absorbing, but we can think as we go. That'd be great. So the main reason is going to be thinking about why we need a business plan and doing the pre-thinking. As I say, the more you put into it, the more successful your plan will be. Okay. Did we find out how many people have had businesses beforehand? Any? Yeah, a few of you have. So one of the biggest things you'll notice as you run a business is there's more and more things that appear every day. And what I call it's the sort of shiny stuff. You go, oh, actually, I should do that, or actually, I do that. And the biggest problem you're going to have is staying on that focus track. And you obviously talked about that focus, what you're aiming for. But one of the reasons why we have a business plan is to keep that focus and say, actually, we've worked out what's important, what we're trying to aim for. And the business plan helps you stay on that track to do that. Not to say that's fixed in stone and always be the case, but the whole point of business plan is you make those conscious decisions to divert rather than being distracted and suddenly realising a year down the line you've not done what you want to achieve. So a big part of the business planning process is understanding your business in a lot more detail. So you can work out what you're going to do in terms of marketing, how you're going to sell to people, that things, costs, etc. So we're not going to go to great detail, but these are the key areas that we will cover. So I sent out some pre-workshop thinking. Did you guys all manage to do that in advance? So you obviously got answers to this now, and we're not going to go through what those answers are. But as we go through both today's session and also as we develop your business plan, the idea is to challenge yourself constantly to the answers to these things. So what you've got down on paper now might not be what you've got down on paper later on today or further on down the line, and that's okay. The whole point is it's you're evolving, you're challenging yourself, and you're really drilling into what's important. So if you think you know who your customer is, do you know who your customer is? Or actually thinking about there might be another customer that you're better able to serve, be more successful in doing that. Okay, so challenge yourself as you go along, or there's certain things that you can improve on that. So we've done introductions, great. We've talked through that, and we've obviously talked about different business. We didn't specifically talk about unique selling points or value propositions. Do anybody know what they are? No? Good. Sort of.
Unique selling point is being unique in the market and why people pick you as opposed to another.
Yeah, what separates you from the rest?
So with with your businesses now, without going into detail, do you think you all know what your unique selling point is, or is that perfect? Well, that's good. That helps part of it, and I haven't gone into detail on that, which is great. Right. So why do we think
value proposition?
Value proposition? We are going to cover this. That's going to be a section that we're going to cover. So I had put that in the question, which I thought was a bit mean, because I thought you might not know what that is. So that's okay, because that is part of what we're doing. I'd have scrapped that out if you all did. So why do you think we need a business plan? Pardon? Yeah. Any other reason?
Something to give an investor, or
Any other reasons?
Have milestones, like what you're trying to achieve by 1 year or whatever. Make the business sustainable.
Means of measuring success or failure.
Yes, exactly. It's and we'll go into it a bit later, but I mean, there are hundreds of different, well, not hundreds, but there's lots of different kinds of business plan. Some of them go into real detail, some of them that strategic and operational plans, and go into minutiae detail. That's not what we're going to be doing, but it's almost lots of reasons. Obviously raising money from the bank, but it's a great opportunity for you guys to think objectively about your business. So there's no point writing it till you start thinking about it. But you talked about your missions and goals and objectives last time. It's about helping you determine what financial needs are of the business, whether your business is there to make profit or whether it's there as a non-profit. Finances are critical in everything you do. Things cost money to do what you need to do. You need to have the cash to pay for those things, etc. So regardless of whether you're non-profit or not, that's a key part thing. And it's the, you know, it's where your business is going, it's the how, you know, when, who, etc., and things like that. And you know, a traditional business plan, which a lot of people sort of do, is you gave it to the bank and the bank reads it and then it sits in a drawer and no one else looks at it. If you've got a good business plan, it's there, it's something you're regularly using, it's something you come back to go, right, okay, so you know, how are we running this business? What do we need to do? Okay, so if it's a 30-page document, you're never going to read it and you're not going to want to update it. But key thing is it keeps you focused on priorities. One of the biggest learnings that I went to a presentation about 10 years ago, and it stuck in my mind. There was about 3 or 4 people all saying the same thing, but it was talking about, you know, you get the power of 3, but they were talking about focusing on 3 things. And they said, if you've got a list of 10 things that you need to do, whether it's 10 things this week, 10 things today, 10 things this month, if you've got 10 things, you won't achieve any of it because you'll be so like, oh, what am I trying to do? If you've got 3 things, you'll achieve all those 3 things. If you've got something in between 3 and 10, you might achieve 1 or 2 of them. And actually, it's really important if you can sort of break it down and go, this is what's important now. Because if you think about all the things you need to achieve, you're trying to do it, you get into a muddle. So that's that. So as Benjamin Franklin says, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And that's essentially what it is. Don't just do business. You know, I've talked to Sally about it and we said, I know a lot of people who haven't done business plans. And actually, some people can run a business without a business plan. A lot of people do, but a lot of it's by luck and by judgment, and they may not necessarily grow as much as they want, or they may not necessarily get the sales they want to get.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So, you know,
reactive rather than.
exactly. You know, the thing about business plan is you're really sort of understanding risk, you're understanding how to sort of, as you say, you're proactive rather than reactive. Okay, so it's a critical part of business. So analysing your business. So before you start writing, there's going to be a few areas that we're going to look at, which really just helps dive in more about your business, your products, your services, and things like that. And if you can understand that and you've got a bit more clarity, well, a lot more clarity on that, you're then better able to write your plan, but also better able to action the plan from it. So we're going to start with value proposition, which is obviously what we talked about. So you've got a product and service, and you might say, let's take your barbecues. Product or service, it looks cool, makes amazing brisket. They're the features of that product and service. What a value proposition is essentially why your customer cares about that. Why is it important to them? What benefits do they get? What value do they get? So it could be on a shelf, it all looks lovely, but why is it going to make their life easier? Yeah. And that's the key. And if you can get your value proposition right, that then helps with all your marketing, your sales strategy. So when you're currently up and speaking to a retailer, explain that product, they want to know the why, the so what, basically. So as I say, it might be solving their problem or need. So one of the things when we look at a value proposition is, for some people, they have a problem that needs to be solved. So it's a need. Some people, it's just a want. And interestingly, if you go through products quite often, well, not quite often, but sometimes it's easier to sell something that people want as opposed to something they need, which seems completely nuts because you'd think it'd be the other way around. But the want is, they've got a pot of money. Actually, I really want that and I'm going to spend my money. Whereas a need, it's like, oh, I have to do that. Exactly. And that's, you know, when you understand why a customer buys what you buy, it sort of helps do that. But, you know, you've really got to sort of focus on, actually, is it a problem? Is it a want or is it a need? And what's the end benefit? So, and if you get that, then you're better able to understand the difference between how you set yourselves out from your competitors. So if you've got a barbecue and somebody else down the road on that shelf, why are they going to buy yours as opposed to someone else's? It's getting into that detail. So there's lots of different value types. Some of it is just, you know, it's a brand, it looks nice and shiny. Some of it is convenience. So if we take Amazon, for example, you know, some people are completely anti-Amazon. But Amazon is there because it's convenient. If you need to buy something, you can spend hours searching for something, or you just go onto Amazon, type in plastic tubs for the kitchen, ta-da, done, tick. And it's that convenience thing that they sell on.
Share price doubled during COVID.
Yeah, goodness.
So it is.
But there's lots of different things, you know, and again, it depends on your customer, whether your customer's a business or a consumer. They might have lots of different reasons. So businesses tend not to worry about brand status. The consumer is more likely to be interested in brand status. But there could be lots of different reasons. But also your product and service, you might, we'll go into a bit more detail in a second, but actually what I'll do, probably makes sense to do that. But if you're better understand how you help the customer, you're better able to communicate to them. So this is the value proposition canvas. Okay, and this is set out to sort of really help you sort of work out what your value proposition is. Has anyone done a value proposition?
On my business.
Pardon?
Not on mine.
No. So essentially, we start on the right hand side, and that's the customer segment. So customer jobs is effectively task or something that your customer is trying to achieve. So it's something they need to do or something they want to do. Okay, and you start with that first of all. And the gains are essentially what that customer would hope to achieve. Yeah, if you could look at the section, we're going to go on to that. The gain is effectively what they would hope to achieve by using your product. Okay. The pain, effectively the pain that that customer is experiencing from doing that task they're doing.
Without your product.
Yeah, without your product. So then on the flip side, your value proposition is what does your product do to create the gains? What gains do you know? And the pain reliever is what does your product do to relieve that pain? So for example, if we use Amazon as an example, customers need to buy stuff for the house. The pain is the fact that it takes them ages to try and find the best price, etc., etc. And pain reliever is they can quickly buy it and it saves them time. It's convenient. And then the products and services is what products and services. You might have you might just have one product or service, you might have multiple, but it's fine-tuning and saying, what service are you providing or what product are you providing that gives them the greatest gain or relieves the most pain for them? And this is where fine tuning, you were saying before about communicating with people, matching it. If that's not clear to them, how you do that, you're not going to be able to sort of get that out there. But actually, if you really fine tune it, that's when you're able to say, yeah, keep it nice and clear and simple. So what we're going to do is we are going to spend, how long are we going to spend? Trying to work out, I was going to get us to work through somebody's together and then spend 5 minutes just doing our own. Okay, so when we do this, I want us to sort of have a stab at our businesses, but don't overthink it. Just write down what comes to you. This is something you can then fine tune and go back later on. But just I want first thing that comes into your mind when you do that. So would anybody like to volunteer to put their business up for being? Yeah.
Only because I'm sitting here thinking, I haven't got a clue. So I've got a customer and a sub-customer or.
So do you know who your customer, so what is your customer trying to do? So who is your customer?
It's going to be the authority.
Yes.
If that's successful.
Are they the only customer?
No, the young people or customers.
So you are what I call a multi-platform. And a bit later on, we'll do something else. You'll be a multi-platform, Kieran, you'll be a multi-platform, and yours is a multi-platform. And I'm trying to work. So multi-platform is when you've got two customers and your product is helping both of them. So as a result of that, you will have different messages. Everything you do with your marketing, I mean, I'm not going to go too much into marketing, but the reason it's important is you're not going to get business in unless you market the right way. So you have two different people. Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. But and that's you really start thinking about how your business. So you've got there's two different platforms. So one customer is the council. So what is the problem? So you'd have to do this almost for both sides. So we might just do one, but when you've got different customers, you have to do it for each and every one. And with that, if you've then got different product, you'd only have a product and service for each customer you focus on. You might have multiple products, and that might be for different customers, and therefore, again, do the different valuation. So, it's not just a, this is my business, I do it. It's more on a customer basis. And the reason you do that is actually because it then helps you. You might have a product or service that this is great, but when you drill into the detail, you might think, actually, I need to fine tune that because it doesn't give them the gain they need. And actually, I can sort of fine tune it to give them greater pain relief. So so you've got two customers there. You've got the customer, which is the council. You've got the individuals.
At this stage. Then so but there may be other customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you then think further on down the line, I'm going to have a different customer. Do they have a different need? What is the job they're trying to do? And if they do, then do exactly the same thing. So what they're trying to achieve, and therefore how if you start off with your business, say, I've got this great product and service, I always push back and say, so what? Why does a customer want it? Whereas this here, you're focusing on the customer and thinking actually why it's important to the customer, and then coming back going, yeah, but does my product give that pain? And go, no, it doesn't. Actually, how can I fine tune it? Or have I got the wrong customer identified?
I just asked a question about the clarity of customer. I think that's because we sit in the same camp here that I would say my customer is students, but I don't get it. It's the person that pays for it, which will be, so I guess your example is you've got a product that someone's going to come and buy that product. So you've got like almost a one-to-one customer relationship. So you don't feel as though my customer is a school, because and it'd be the head teacher or the business manager that literally has the nod to say, buy this. I can sort of loosely say, and I think that's what Sally and I are trying to work with is, I've got lots of customers in that chain that need identifying and marketing and show the benefits of why this would be useful, similar to you in that respect. But is it, where do I spend not most of my time, but the majority of my focus?
It's a focus. So it's interesting. I mean, a lot of what we're going to go through today, they're all interrelated. So you do one thing, you'll do something else and go, oh, actually, I'll come back to that, because actually having thought about that, you know, and that's why I'm saying it's evolving. And if you were to sit there and we were to go through, this is how to write a business plan, write this, write that, you wouldn't have done any of this thinking. And you could, so with customers, there are, you know, you have customer segments, and there's lots of different kinds of, you know, what I call customer segments, but it's those characteristics. And I did actually print something out. I thought it's the easiest way of summarizing. But your customers can be differentiated 4 different ways. So you've got your demographic. So you talk about age, gender, income, etc., and things like that. You've then got geographic. And what I'll do is I'll sort of potentially share this with you guys, and then you've got something. So the demographic is the who. Who are they? The geographic is where are they? Then you've got the why. So that's what they call the psychographic. Psychographic. So that might be their personality, opinions, social status, and things like that, their goals, values, and beliefs. And the 4th one is the how. So that's might be to do their purchasing and spending habits, things like that. And this is very consumer focused, but you can still think about that. So if you've got a product and you go out and say anybody can buy it, you're going to fail, because you're not able to really drill down to get that right message out to those people. Yes, you're right, anybody could buy it. But really what you need to have is, if if it's a mass market product, great, but you might still end up segmenting your clients within that, so you can give different marketing messages for them, different sales channels, etc. So that's a mass market, but then you might have a niche product. So for example, exactly, for me, I'm a vegetarian, so I probably wouldn't get that much. I might still, but it might not be as my brother-in-law. That's your niche product, he loves brilliant barbecue.
Smoked banana flour, try that.
Oh, good say, yeah. But that's the thing, from a niche market, it's very, so when you've got a niche market, it's far easier to market to those people, because you can really fine tune to those different segments and really understand that customer. And that's when you get trying to work out your customer personas. Exactly, vegetarian barbecue, but precisely give it some flavour. Give them a steak, but
Can't even hear you, I'm sorry.
But that's essentially, so you can, it's far easier when you've got a niche market, but then you've got a multi-sided platform, and that's when you've got different people that you're servicing. So people who've got websites, things like eBay. eBay's a multi-sided platform. You've got people who are trying to sell stuff, you've got people who are trying to buy stuff, and they market to different ways, and they provide different needs and solutions to those. They've got different consumers got different problems, and therefore they've got different requirements. I don't want to go onto a website to buy something to know how much it's going to cost and how easy it is to sell something. I just want to buy it. And so, does it make sense in the simplest form? So you would have to look at those things. So one of them, and just to make it a bit more complex, the multi-sided platform. Some businesses have a multi-sided platform and they get revenue from both of those platforms. Some people, they get just revenue from one, and they might think that's my priority because that's where I get money from. But without this, you've got nothing. And that might actually be the area. So, for example, if you need to bring traffic to your website to generate something for someone else, without having put that effort into generating that traffic, so actually that's almost your bigger focus.
So would you, with this value proposition canvas thing, which you do one of these different parts of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, customer base. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly.
But in your case, the people with the money and not the kids, right? The product is helping the kids, but your customer, I think it's just the schools.
Yeah.
They've got the money.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's
But why do they want to spend that money in the
because
first place?
that's the kids, yeah.
Yeah.
And also it's helping them.
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah, I'm thinking out loud because there's lots of government funding in my sector where. So recently, the Department of Education through COVID, so all the Marcus Rashford stuff when he kicked
Yeah,
against about low income children not having access to activities and food. So there's funding that came out of that to provide enrichment opportunities over Christmas, Easter and summer holidays. So what I'm currently chatting with is the county partnerships all over the country is helping to provide you data with the impact of that.
Yeah.
So it's a different customer using similar data. It's the same data from the same school. So essentially just repackaging it for selling the same stuff to someone else.
Yeah.
So I just need to think carefully. That's why I asked, would it be sensible? And I hate getting bogged down in paperwork.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it because I'll literally just go pop that to one side because it's a folded page.
No, you won't, because we could have a couple of one-to-ones and I'll be like, right, say
Yeah.
Very
For
exclusive.
me, it's much simpler. If I'm going to do a business plan, it's really simple.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm going to just look at every now and again, and I can go bam, bam, bam. Okay, yeah, right, let's have that. I have to read 12 pages.
No, so
Gonna be-
I do about three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll just sit there.
exactly,
I'll get
precisely.
Pages and pages.
A business plan that sits in your drawer is no good.
Yeah.
What we'll be covering, we will go through how to develop a business plan because that's one of the things that you need to be doing as part of this. But there's going to be 3 or 4 one-page things that you can go, right, that's that brilliant. And you look at it and go,
about this, like I don't want this to be like dumped together with
no, this stays, that stays as that. Okay, well, it stays as that, and then you turn it to a one-liner. Thinking more about your product, I think it's less, I don't think it is a two-sided thing. I think potentially you help kids, but the person who's helping the kids is the school. So you're helping the schools help the kids by providing that data. So
It's essentially beneficiary, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
It's not.
So that's the value they're getting from it. So the value. So if we think about it, so the customer jobs. So let's start with this, for example. So with the customer jobs, but that's really high level. What are the schools trying to achieve? Their biggest pains is about the children, and therefore, actually, that data. How is your data then going to help the children? That's your pain creator.
That's right. You're helping the school need to help those children.
Yeah.
Because the children are the ones that have been rude, so they're the ones causing problems in the school and the running of the school. So that is a problem for the leaders of the school, which often they then go, we don't have money to solve that. So they turn to the council or turn to the others and say, we need you to intervene. Which is
So that's why I think, I need to exclude the young people as.
I think you're the same as me, right? Because our focus is kids, because I want them to do all this nice stuff.
Yeah.
They are the game.
So the children are your North Star, aren't they, really?
Yeah.
What we're talking about, that's really.
Yeah.
They're your North Star, but actually, the value proposition and stuff as well.
I think
Who provides those services.
I disagree, actually. It's by relation you are, but the North Star is helping the school help the kids. And it's subtle, but it's, if you don't.
Yeah, I guess it's the wording, isn't it? It's the wording.
And also the way I work, I'm, like I'm expression to it, I'm trauma informed practice and relational practice. So my focus is the young people.
Yeah.
And it just so happens I'm being employed by council or whoever, but my intention is to try and make things better for the kids rather than the council.
You look at is send is I did the course of send law buying school because the school are absolutely failing how they handle send. That's said what the course.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just they just exclude it, rather than have like to be excluded, and then the problem is.
There is no right or wrong answer, whether the North Star is the children or school. I mean, to me, I'd probably say the North Star is the children. So if I look at my mission is to have a positive impact on the planet. What I physically do doesn't, but I help facilitate other businesses that are. So I can help multiple people do that. So that's my overall goal, but I'm helping other people to do that.
I'm like devil's advocate, just thinking like,
Yeah.
you just stand to school and say, I can see that you're struggling with those 5 children, they're really hard work. The school be like, I'm at the time, don't have much hate for you to go and do this stuff. It's the only way that they can affect change by going to the school leaders and say, if they've got funding or like I think that's the gate, they're the gatekeepers.
So, you know, let's say the schools, your customer,
Yeah.
first and foremost. What are they trying to achieve? What is their job, the task job that they are trying to achieve? That
Can I be silly close one?
no, to the point.
Yeah. They're trying to. Just not. So they are.
Can I tell you where, because I sat on the board of our school, and our role was to sit down every year and to look at our school improvement. Oh, that is to run the school.
Yeah.
That is from the staff to the children, and then 3 aims. And that's what the main focus would be year on year. And they would then sit down and reflect on last year's, meet them. It will be data driven to go to Ofsted to governance, and the governors would hold them to account.
Yeah.
Next, they would then use that based on last year's to then plan for the next year and the 2 years ahead. Whatever.
Yeah.
But it would be a very simple document, the school improvement plan. And I'm just thinking out loud because of the environment school I worked in. We had to focus, one of ours was on improving behaviour and attendance for those vulnerable children, because we had at one point 300 kids, 15 children who were just, the whole school environment completely changed. Lunchtimes couldn't run. There was volatile, we had to put in practices where a child from year 6 would go to a year 2 child, year 2 children's classroom, throwing chairs. So we had to have mechanisms in place to keep the children safe. Parents, we had parents fighting at the front of the school. Police, it's bonkers. So you think, our key objective was, can we run the school?
Yeah.
Can we run it safely?
That's the same for every school.
It is, but it's,
Every school is struggling with the same children. They don't.
it does go up and
Service
down.
replaced. Was supposed to be allowed to go off a quiet place to calm himself down, which he would do.
Yeah.
But no, the teacher would follow him to keep saying, you've got to go to class, you've got to go to class.
It's, yeah.
I'm going to get us back on focus just because.
Yeah. You can look at time scenarios like that. The reason why that's really difficult is because we had children as well. When they go to school side, we have to maintain our role is to maintain them safe,
Yes.
which is really tough. It's a really fine boundary.
Yeah.
Then you also have every child has the right to education, so we need to make sure that they're coming in.
Yeah.
So it's a very fine line of sort of balancing that.
That's awesome.
And it'd be interesting to come from your perspective to see that, like what we would try and do is we had no funding, because what we wanted to do is send a lot of those children to forestry to get that emotional social support to then come back into education. It took us a year and a half, 2 years to be able to come to the council, go through the assessments, confirm that there was funding available, so generally isn't funding available, to then pay for one child out of our 15 to go to forestry.
Coming back to it, this is why, unless you know what your customer is trying to achieve, you can't even begin to work out. You've literally just got product or service. You have to really go, what are they trying to achieve?
Yeah.
What is the job that they are trying to do? And
If you could come into our school at that point in time and say, do you know what, I can take those 15 children out in 2 days, just staggered throughout. So we had 2 or 3 children less every day because you could put a service in place. Doesn't matter who paid for it. It's like,
digress, yeah, you literally
if you can solve
break those
that
bits
problem,
down.
right? Our school are those 3 key areas of improvement and improving everyone else's learning, because that's the issue, that their impact is impacting not just their learning, but the children's learning. That to me, as a team leader, would be like, yeah, brilliant,
Yeah.
sign up. Love it.
I just changed the title of my business.
Can we take these kids to a shared garden?
Yeah.
Don't give them any alcohol though.
Like changing environment, that's the
Playing
difference.
figures, so-
It's a killer. It's a killer for us, it's the money it would cost.
Yeah.
We would send one child
Oh, that's
outside of
love
Somerset
Forest.
to Ted Forest School, and it would cost probably £300 a day. We could pay a supply teacher 1-to-1 to come in and have that child separately do whatever they want with it. So we paid for a member of staff, again, meeting their needs, making sure it's safe, and we couldn't afford it. So you start to go, what do we need to try and do? We try to integrate them and make sure we've got enough little things in place to make sure that they can have more day as possible. And often it would be reduced amount of time, maybe they'll come at 10 o'clock. It's just honestly, there's probably 100 things you try before getting to this stage, but it's just hard. But I'm ranting.
No, it's fine. It's okay. So I'm just conscious that
Yeah,
I
no.
want everyone to be able to have an input and also to be able to sort of think about your businesses, because I don't want us to go back at the end of today and go, right, now you've got to do all the thinking. I want us to be able to all do some thinking today, so that it's not just kind of like that. No, I want it to be a chore, but I want you guys to be able to sort of have an input. So Why don't we sit down just quickly for 5 minutes? Say quickly, because you won't, you know, you'll go back and do more. But have a look at your value proposition canvas and just think, what is your customer trying to achieve? First of all, if you don't know who your customer is, try and write that down. But you know, this isn't going to be set in stone. This is just getting you to think about it. Okay. See if you can just try and work through.
My point, just I've started thinking the last couple of years about these pains. I've always used to, it didn't sit right with me because it's thinking about people's pains, it's just not very nice.
Yeah.
And if you think about, and there is customer jobs on the right actually, but the customer, the job that they're trying to do,
Yeah.
that's the pain in a way. If you think about it, instead of thinking pain, like what are they trying to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the customer job is task. What has to be done, or what do they want to do? So, you know, the customer, for example, like customer wants to have a relaxing afternoon, wants to enjoy a good barbecue. So you know that's what they want to do, or they want to have a. It could be lots of. You could come up with lots of different tasks. But what's, you know, gain, you know, they're trying to get, you know, they want to barbecue, they want to relax, gaze, they have a barbecue. You know, there's no right or wrong answer. Just
George is struggling.
I don't understand it.
if you know you're going to have lots of customers, just focus on one thing. You're not going to be able. You should never sort of try and achieve everything because it will be you. Yeah, you have different value proposition for different parts of your different customers.
Why didn't you do one? Why didn't you do the other? Imagine you're in your home and thinking, I need a hairdresser. So what's the pain? Yeah. It's really decent on that side. Yeah, so if you focus on the individual, why would they come to your side? What's the point of that? Because they don't have their own people. They've accepted that. But my five parts of the place is this. If she deals with people who haven't mentioned where they go to doing their down. Suddenly goes, I can't go anywhere. I can't get groceries. I don't know how to do my gardening. So you're gonna have, so that would be their pains, wouldn't it? Is that they're in their own home and they're now. I'm just using my example because that it's an issue.
Yeah, people like that.
It's customer. So in their so what we're saying, say they need to do the gardening.
So they do, see, that's 5 things that they need. It's less than most 3. In their house, they need someone to help them with their garden. They need someone to help them get up and get dressed, or they're to go shopping. Okay, so if you focus on those 3 things, they're going to be pains, aren't they? They're in their own home, they're stuck without help. Gains are going to be when they come to the side, it's going to be easier for them to, there's a directory, an online directory to find all those things. And because what you're understanding is saying that actually it's going to be location based, which I guess is this geographic link to where you are. Which I think that's going to be your biggest benefit of that site. It's going to be a full directory of stuff, which is, I guess you want to look at the services, you do loads of other services, but it's going to be local to those. Yeah, but I think that's the other side, because that's what's great about this, it's a two-way thing.
So we're here, so yeah, customer jobs, don't do anything and do that. So the customer job is. Just.
That's it, like joining, for example.
Yeah.
Retail shop, you put that
Out,
out.
like Joy's jobs.
Don't
So what does Joy need?
ever.
She's clean.
What's your
There.
job? So I go.
So the next question is, what's the pain? Why can't you do those things?
She said. It's going in half the surgery.
So the heart surgery is she's not able to walk, or she's not walk. Okay, so the pain is that she can't be pumped.
Detail brain how to she can't.
Don't think about that right now. The pain is that she can't walk far.
said, but the representative. Yeah, that's whatever, it says, it doesn't have to be specific, it's saying not so much of this will be going back and forward. Fine tuning it. If you get, 3 slides on when we go out today, oh, I know, I need to change that, that's fine. Like, sort of fun. Okay, recovering from surgery. So the gains is going to be her being able to get these things done. It seems very simple. We're saying actually, she can't, type of garden. Demons are gone. So what?
Stuff like just like, helps me. Where did you hang out?
What is your products and services? Hard to comment. So carers or people to do the job. Why don't you say people to do the job? Provide it, let's provide
Yeah,
it.
providing.
Can't provide it. So what's going to be the biggest change that's really interesting? What, should be coming from surgery? It's painful for what's the biggest pain, Why does it matter the fact that she can't go to the doctor shop? Because she's got to be tested regularly because she wouldn't be able to go shopping. So by relying on someone coming in and giving her stuff. So you could see if it really simple, just go, well, essentially go to the doctors, but actually why is it critical for her to go to the doctors? Make sure she's having her regularly. Better, yeah. Will that be broken?
Can you work directly with schools?
I don't see anyone else.
So now, the products.
In some ways, it's much.
You go to
Very creative.
South, let's say.
Sometimes it's hard to sort of differentiate between the two.
Yeah.
But technically, what the is taking that pain.
And you're trying to jump out and pick back.
What is it?
First, let's service these schools.
Yeah.
We'll go to the next section. You'll understand a bit more about it. It's more about
What's the drama?
You are.
So what do you think about your numbers?
Yeah.
And again, create the direction. But also, I think within here, change to something, it's not going to be so close on social interaction. Here, or she,
You've got.
so the game is just kind of ask.
Who's the worst one?
So again, create.
That's what we do. Okay, good.
It's more, these two are in sense, and sort of impact, because it's just a week time, but the idea is to play.
6 weeks of it, so if that moves out problem, it should be.
Yeah, we possibly, I would start with just with one, like, one thing, and she will. So again, it's really. Doesn't garden, so it's like huge, like having a garden.
Yeah.
By doing gardening, that's not the cost of doing, it's the pain, the fact that actually. She's not able to do that, and it's difficult. And the pain really. It's more just brain function. Yeah. That's that one.
Give you another minute, guys, and then we'll.
Based on and then have to cancel the program. That was something along that they have to school back to continuous actually 520 into so I think it's just really sort of development. It's fine for working with all these PHS in because what we're managing now is takes an awful lot of thinking. Not too late. Well, there's a lot of staff here, a lot less on people before you can get started again. I agree. Oh, yeah. So they get lots of other groups.
on self research in the schools and doing the HSE.
All right, guys. How'd you get on?
Really good, actually. I've done this for, like I said, I've done this for other businesses, but actually it's really interesting when you just do it very quickly. You know, I've been doing it, I've been thinking about nothing else for 4 months. I swear. Oh yeah, it's all about emotion. I didn't realise it was all about emotion.
But it's really, but yeah. So sometimes it's really easy to do, and sometimes it's not. So don't if you've struggled doing it today, don't think, oh no, that's it. Essentially, your product and service needs to be something that's going to provide them with the most gain they've got. And if you're struggling to work out what the gains and pains are and how your product does that, you need to fine tune it. And if you're not able to do it, you're going to struggle to get out there in the market and do the same thing. So really fine tune it. But when you do a value proposition, the idea of doing it is so that you can then move on to there. Oops.
Oops.
Doing. Yeah, I'm on that bit. Excellent, it moved it. So having set that down, you've got Canvas, which has got 6 different sections in it. The idea is to fine tune it into one line. Okay. And there's sort of 2 main ways of doing it. And this is why I say you'll come back to value proposition and think about it. There's either what they call the Steve Blank method. Steve Blank was the guy who came up with it. It just says, we help X do Y by doing Z. Okay. So the X is the customer. The Y is the job that they're trying to do. And the Z is almost the product service that you're doing. Okay. So as an example, we help online zero waste shops increase their return on investment in website advertising by turning their Google leads into revenue metrics. It's very specific, but unless you can have that specificness, when you're talking to a customer, when you're talking to an investor, when you're talking to a supplier, you're not able to really talk about what you do. And a lot of things in business is about being concise when you're trying to sell something, being concise when you're trying to buy something. Then there's a slightly different version, which is the Jeff Moore method, which I personally prefer because I think it gets you just a bit more specific about it. So say for target customer, which is our customers we talked about, so that's the need or the want, our product or service, and that literally is if you've got a product or service, so Clive, that would be your product, is the benefits so and so. So it's exactly the same value proposition. But it says for online zero waste shops, that's the target customer, who struggle to find return of investment, so that's their need or want. Our product is a web-based analytics platform, that's the product category, and then the benefit, translate Google leads into actionable revenue metrics. Does that make sense? So I'm not expecting you to come up with exactly the value proposition, but just thinking about what you've just done, in your workbook, there is a section for you to literally just, like I say, just write down what comes to your mind. That's the one in the blue section. I've put a section out for both there, so you can do both methods, or if you decide you want to just try one now. That all makes sense.
Find out.
Oh, it should be. It'll be fair in the main section, Clive. In the yeah, it's not an appendix because appendix was anything that was going to be landscape. Page off the page. It should be on the second page. There you go. Right, but there. So where it says doing, it could be that you replace that by providing, for example.
We help people with too much money show off by giving them really good health cues.
That actually,
It's actually on it.
it is actually on it. So maybe give a bit more attention. It's essentially, and hopefully this will be something you guys will cover as part of your marketing. This is the kind of thing that when you go to your website, it'll be the first thing people see. So if you look at websites and have a look at some websites, you normally see like a one-liner, and that's the bit that says this is us, this is our value proposition, and then they go into a bit more detail. But it may be that actually people read that and go, yes, I do want to show off. I'm going to read more.
Nobody admits to showing off, though, do they? But you know that's what they're doing.
Exactly. My brother-in-law, who I just would love your product, he's just bought himself a garden robot just to cut his grass.
Oh, right.
Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. He possibly needs a bit more exercise, and I was like, "You've got that to show off." And thinking just that little bit of gardening would have been great. But he's like, "Look, I've got a robot." My sister said it looks like a Bugatti. Of course, you could tell he was like, "Yes, I've got a Bugatti."
We now need to train a chihuahua to sit on it.
It's a tiny thing. My dad looked at it. He said it just goes around in circles and then says, "I'm bored now. Going off here." Right.
It's got a share cut on there.
See, that is a show off piece.
It is.
But you see, this is, if I look at that, see, even I like that. But that would come down to your customer. When you look at about your customer, it's about people. It's about people's status, luxury, and they want,
And they want to show off.
they want something
Yeah,
stylish.
they want to show off.
But
One
people
thing that
spend a
yours,
lot
isn't
of
it?
money on outside kitchens, don't they? And
Exactly.
I can imagine my sister going, "There goes my pension." Right, how'd everyone get on? Is some of you still doing it?
It sounds jazzy, does it?
No, it literally is. But that's the whole and that's the thing, it's to the point, as we go on, you're going to be doing marketing, you'll be doing your elevator pitch, this all come into it. And it may be that by the time you get there, you'll fine tune a bit more, but essentially you're really fine tuning as to sort of who that customer is. Does everyone have a go reading it out? Doesn't matter. There's no judgment, there's no nothing. I'll start with you, Lisa, because
Yeah, so I don't really know. I mean, I tried the second one. Well, I did them both, but I'll do the second one. So
Yeah.
for young people who are looking for an active community, our dance and circus experience is a training academy that nurtures the young creatives.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Precisely, that's exactly.
That's
It does. They do feel like mouthfuls, but
Both got, obviously, there's the different aims with what we're going to be doing, but we help elderly or ill to do activities by providing the help to do so.
yeah, exactly. And so you have a different value proposition for the other side.
Okay,
So when you've got that multi-platform, that's in. Brilliant.
It's difficult.
Just keeps you on your toes.
Gardening together is for aspiring gardeners who have no access to the land and fear that they do not have enough experience or knowledge to succeed. Our website is connecting the gardeners to landowners that allows them to start gardening together.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You can go now. Anybody else want to have a go?
But connoisseurs of fine spirits who are looking for complex new flavours, our product is an artisan spirit that brings new flavour profiles that will excite your palate. Nice. That's on one side. You've got another side where it's like aimed at gluten-free, celiac
Exactly.
kind of side as well. So there needs to be that.
Yeah.
As well.
So as I say, if you've got
I feel that's a bit cheesy.
no, but at the end of the day, if if that is the benefit or the gain they're going to get from it, that's what you need to include in there. It's say, and if you've got different customer segments, have one, there's no point sit there going, this does X, Y, and Z, and someone goes, well, doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
We get their worries.
Yes. Forget much more than that.
I was going to say you could say we've helped people with spare money to by getting bollocks.
We help rebalance the world's wealth.
Anybody else?
Oops.
We help the local authority improve community safety and well-being by working with high need victims of sexual and criminal exploitation.
Make that get slower. Do that slower.
I would possibly only at the end of that
Yes.
Just say it one more time.
We help the local authority improve community safety and well-being by working with high need victims of sexual and criminal exploitation.
Cool. Anybody else?
We help schools track, record and monitor student enrichment by analysing register data. Again, very exciting.
So that's the reason I asked back, and I just realised is you can tell the difference between those two value propositions, because the second one just goes into a little bit detail, a bit almost like the sort of the how. So, but have a go about doing both of those. But there'll be different times and needs, places where you might use them. Right. So, moving on. SWOT analysis. Has anyone done a SWOT before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody doesn't know what a SWOT analysis is? So a SWOT analysis is essentially it's an objective view of your business where you look at your strengths and weaknesses, and also at the same time you look at where your business is in the wider market. Okay, so if you can SWOT, you've got two sides of it. You've got the internal side, which is your strengths and weaknesses. So the strengths are obviously the sort of strong attributes about your business, and the weaknesses are things that really you could improve on. Then you've got the external side of things that are opportunities, so they're things that you can take advantage of in your business. The threats you've got absolutely no control over whatsoever. But the whole idea is part of doing your business is you're trying to work out, you need to identify your threats so that you can mitigate those. Okay. So it's important to do. When you do a SWOT analysis, it's really important you look at it objectively. And if it's only you in the business, it's quite hard to do, because no matter what, we always think we can be objective, but we're not. We're very focused and no mind and go, this is it. So if there's not enough people in your business, get external opinion. Ask friends, ask family, ask prospective customers. So schools, for example, you might have a sort of conversation with them, find out. But generally the idea is to sort of really blitz. So today, what we're going to do, we were going to do it on the wall, but we're not allowed to use the wall, so we're doing a post there. I'm going to get you guys to think about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of your business. But also at the same time, if there's any strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that you might think generally another business might have, just write it down anyway. Because actually, the more we can do that, it might be that you bring up a threat that somebody else hasn't thought about that will be relevant to that person's business. So I'm going to give you all some post-it notes, and we're going to spend 5 minutes, literally, writing. I don't know. Yeah, probably. You got enough.
Strengths, just weakness.
So this is what a SWOT template looks like effectively. So strengths are things that you do well. It might be things that are unique to your business in terms of resources. It might be like knowledge that you've got, etc. It'll be what other people see as your strengths and weaknesses. Improvements, what you do better, what competitors do better. And if you lack resources, so whether that, when I talk about resources, it might mean human resources, brain power, physical resources. So if you need to create manufacturing plant, etc., there might be the resources to build that. External, so that's looking at the wider market. So it could be, for example, market trends. It could be funding that's out there. It could be current press releases that come out that are really going to help you sort of sell the business. And clearly, competitor weaknesses is obviously an opportunity for you because you can make yourself stand out against them. And the threats, so clearly things like COVID, recession, China, things like that are threats. But it could be somebody new coming to the market.
No, nick it, copy it.
Exactly, precisely. So with a lot of what you do, if you've got a product, one of the weaknesses your business will always have is how easy is it for somebody to copy. So with anything you do, if you've got barriers to entry, so for example, you've got something that you can copyright intellectual property, but
China don't give it.
no, I know they don't give us.
Yeah, you said it.
But the issue you've got is that China, no matter how much, they've still got the shipping costs, and then that all adds into it. But this one advantage you've got over that is that people buy it locally.
Yeah, but then China produces material, has very cheap labour, cheap energy. It has so many
Ah,
advantages.
But it is that. But you know, if you think about it, if your target market is luxury product, they're less likely about. A lot of Chinese business comes because people are trying to save money, so they can do it for cheaper. You might end up going to China ultimately to get them to manufacture for you.
Maybe one day.
So yeah, so literally,
By British positivity of that.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'd see.
Precisely. So, but then that's your differentiation. So if you just literally by what post-it notes, on post-it notes, we're going to stick it on the wall, and I'm going to take a picture. We'll share because we're going to have this as well. We're going to stick it over there. So if you literally just write down individual, you can put multiple ones on a post-it note if you want, or you can. Guys, I'm going to talk through some of these. So effectively, I'll take a picture, and then we can look at it. And again, it's everything you've just done today. You can fine tune, you can add to it, and constantly develop it. So this would be one of the things that you have up on your wall. These are my strengths, weaknesses, etc. And so, yeah, looking at strengths, these are things that are really easy for us to think about because we actually think strong design, good customer interaction, flexible, make things easier. So again, that's picking up on those values, something that's easier. Experience tailored to their request. That's just a few. Weaknesses, no reliable wholesaler. And that's quite a key weakness, because if you don't have that wholesaler to do it, or if you're reliant on partners, then your whole business could really sort of struggle if you lose X, Y, Z. I've got a couple of customers who they rely on glass jars. There's obviously been something that's happened as a result of COVID, and then obviously everything else that's happening in the market. And they've not been able to get glass jars. And suddenly they've got a product that they've had to rechange everything they do. So it's producing a completely different size and everything like that. And then they've had to sort of speak a bit different. The whole of their business model has had to change overnight because they no longer get the same size glass, which is quite a fundamental thing. So something like that would actually be a potential threat, is your reliance. It's a weakness, but it's also a reliance on suppliers. You can't control if that supply goes out of business and decides. Therefore, what do you do to mitigate that? Weakness, only me. Yeah, and that's my weakness. There is only one of you, potentially. There's multiple things that you need to do. What happens if you're ill tomorrow? You know, how does that fit business? Opportunity, I love this. UK gym market's worth 1.7 billion. Exactly. The world's your oyster. Funding, expanding. Large cohort of needed schools, brilliant. Threats. So this is the hardest thing, and people struggle with this most. And actually, interestingly, that's more than these post-it notes. It might have been because we did strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. But it is really hard to think about the threats. No, I don't know whether it's
Fluctuations.
Yeah,
I mean, anything.
it's just everything, things that you can't control, but you need to know what those potential threats are so that you've got a plan. You don't want to be in a situation going, this happened, because that comes down to the whole being reactive in a business. And if you're constantly reacting to a threat that's happened that you can't control, suddenly that plan that you were sort of heading down just keep coming off track. So if you can mitigate it, if you can anticipate what those threats are beforehand, you can build a model that mitigates those threats so that actually the number of curveballs you get as you go throughout your business are minimised. It's not to say you'll never have curveball, because you will in business, but actually if you've thought ahead in your planning when that happens. Okay, so I'll take a quick picture before they all fall off the wall. So we've obviously covered a SWOT analysis. One of the things, which is another thing that we should be doing, is competitor analysis, which expands on the hang on one sec. Oh, we are. Oh, you're on there. Right. I've no idea sort of how we're on that view. Fine. Okay. So competitive analysis, again, this is a key part in your marketing strategy. I'm not going into this because you'll cover it. Hopefully you should cover it as part of your marketing thing. But you've done your SWOT review, really to make sure you stand out and you're ready and mitigating the threats in the market. It's doing a SWOT analysis of your competitors. If you don't know the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors, you're not able to differentiate yourself. And they will end up getting ahead of you in X, Y, and Z. So if you need to know that. And I'm not going to share a template with you necessarily, because when you do competitor analysis, it will be different for every single business. So if you've got a business that's online, how you compare yourself to your competition is very different to something that is a one-on-one relationship with a larger business. But the kind of thing that you differentiate yourself in might be pricing. So if you've got a product which is a mass market product, pricing is going to be a key differentiation, and likewise all those key areas. But think about that in terms of marketing. If you've got a product, so what you do, how, what's your competition? It might not necessarily be somebody doing the same thing as you, but it might be doing something that's got, say, where their time would be. So it might be another club that kids go to and things like that. So actually, that would be one of your competitors, even though they're not directly related. But have a go. I think I've got some. I was planning on sending some templates to you that you can have a look at. But it may be you go, this isn't relevant to me. I'll find something that is more relevant. But you don't have to do loads. But think about who your competition is. If you turn around and say, I've got no competition, well, you've all got competition, just in different ways, shapes, or form. And the competition just might be how someone plans on spending their money. So it's not that they necessarily get, you might be the only person who's produced a barbecue, but actually if that money is going to be spent on a car or something like that, that's what the competition is. So always think and challenge yourself in that. So really quickly, and I'm not going to go to great detail, but we've covered value proposition. USP, which is your unique selling point, value proposition, competitive advantage. Sometimes they're used interchangeably. There are slight differences between them, and I just thought it's just summarised. So unique selling point is how you're different from your competitors. So it might be the features, the benefits, prices, etc., your customer service. The value proposition is basically the bit, it's the value part of that USP. Okay, so it's why that customer cares about that difference as opposed to the feature. And a competitive advantage could be made up of multiple USPs. So you might only have one USP, in which case that is your competitive advantage. I will share this with you afterwards, guys, if you want.
Oh, you. Right.
Yeah, and I'll share it with you. So do that. So that's essentially just summarise that. Area, which is something that I talk about with a lot of my customers. This sort of area is an acronym for the four main drivers of revenue to your business. Okay, so one is acquire, so that's how you acquire your customers. Okay, two is, if you've got a new customer, is how you retain that customer. So one of you, I think, was talking earlier. It was you about the shops. You've got pop-up shop, customers come along, they buy something from you, but they're completely anonymous. You don't know when they're going to come back. So having that website, that's about how you retain them, you get their information, you're able to communicate with them. Expand or expansion, and that's how you get more from that customer. And advocacy, which is the ultimate end game, is when people are coming to your business because somebody else has recommended you. And why does this matter? This matters because the key thing, trying to get people in the door to buy from you, costs money. It costs time. So the two things together, whether you're marketing, whether you're going out speaking to people, all of that is time and money doing that. If you can do that in a more effective way, you're going to generate more revenue for the same amount of information. So I've got some metrics on the right hand side just to give you an idea, and you'd use that to sort of track how you were doing. But as an example, let's say you've got a website. Okay, so you've got a website and it's for your pet products. You might get 10,000 visitors to your website. Okay, great, 10,000 visitors. If only 1% buy for them, that's your acquisition, and that would be a metric of that. If for the same amount of effort, you've got two ways of driving that revenue. You could either change price, which is a completely different thing. I'm not talking about that now. You could either drive more traffic, and if that conversion ratio stays at 1%, you'll get more sales from it, but it'll cost you more money to drive that traffic. Or you could change that conversion ratio. So if the same amount of visitors to your website, if 2% convert, you double your revenue. So the key thing of that focus for you is actually how do you improve that conversion ratio rather than how do I get more people to my website? So it's about thinking smarter about how you drive that revenue. Yeah. So just think about all those, you know, so everything you do with your business, again, likewise, retain that customer. You've got them through the door. How do you get them to keep repeat buying with you? And that'll come into things like marketing. It might be communications with them back and forth, having their details. Expansion is when they buy from you, rather than buying the one product they've got, how do you get them to buy more from you? So it might be upselling, it might be cross-selling, so different products. So whilst, you know, with your platform guys, somebody might come along because they need someone to do the garden, but actually on the platform they can find the do X, Y, and Z, and suddenly they're more reliant on that because there's things that they can use. Yeah, does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
so the metrics will vary for every business, but if you can think about actually what metrics would be a good indicator as to how successful you are, then you know when we come back to those 3 focus points that we'll be talking about. If you say, actually, you know what, my focus needs to be just increasing that conversion ratio, make that your focus, not going, actually, how can I get more people onto the website?
In sales, we used to have new people, used to train new people. You say to them, you know, your conversion rate should be 3 to 1. Every 3 customers you speak to is in car sales.
Yeah.
Every 3 people you speak to, you get sales.
Yeah.
If you speak to 30 people, you've got 10 sales. You want to increase the sales exponentially, and increase the number you speak to, so you beat everybody else out the door to speak to the customers.
Exactly.
And then upselling again is.
But the advocacy thing, you know, you're not even driving traffic. People are coming to you because someone's recommended. And, you know, there are actually, so there's artificially driven ways of doing that. That's when you people say, oh, you know, here's £5 if you refer us.
Yeah.
That's still costing money to get in the door. So it's, people do that. And actually, if you're trying to jumpstart your business, that might be a tactic you use. But actually, if you've got good customer service, good product, and actually, if you answer that, if that value proposition is a strong value proposition, you'll by inherent nature get advocacy. So that's, you know, that's when you know that it's well.
Thing to do at the beginning.
Because the artificial,
to get the customers in the door, and then after, say, a year or whatever, just.
it's what a lot of people do, whether it's the right or wrong way for each business. It will come down to that strategy. That's one of the things you'll think about. But essentially, a lot of people do that, because if you need to get a certain number of people in the door to generate the revenue to get you to your next level of development, then that might be worth doing.
With carers, if you know a carer, then that carer knows another carer, and that
Exactly.
goes back to it.
Precisely. So if you know, and because you've got that multi-sided platform, that might be critical to you to getting.
Yeah, so they can refer 3 people, reduce your annual cost by 2/3.
Exactly.
You're losing money.
But then
Slightly,
those 3
but you're gaining 3 people you might not have had.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you know, if your platform's nothing without either side of those people, you need to, you know. Okay, so understanding your business model. So effectively, your business model is what your business does, how it operates profitably, and how it provides value to the customers. There are lots of different business models out there, retailers, wholesalers, subscription models, etc. I will share like a sort of summary, just some ideas of things, but it allows you to sort of help understand what you guys do as businesses. But in terms of one pages, there's a couple of ways. We've obviously talked about the value proposition. We've talked about threats. Say you have a business plan that's detailed and really in depth, but you're not going to look at it. If you have something like this, which is called the business model canvas, or another one which is called the lean business canvas, which I'll come to, this summarises your whole business model on one page. You can have it here. This is what's important. So essentially, it maps out the key areas. So it starts by looking at who your customer is and that value proposition that we talked about. And then it looks about how you have a relationship with those customers. It talks about how you communicate with those customers, how you get those customers in the door, marketing strategies, the sales strategies you're going to use. The business model canvas then looks at who your key partners are. So we've talked about the threats. So who are key external to your business? Who are the key people to help you drive that business? You need to know who they are. You're going to be reliant on them. And likewise, what are the key activities? So if you were to use Apple, for example, their model, their key activities would be software development, for example, or product development. And the key resources, obviously the most important resources required to deliver value. So physical, might be intellectual property, people, finances. So we won't have time to do this now, but you've got it in your workbooks. again, this is a really sort of literally a 20-minute exercise, brain dump. Top 3 things that come to mind. Don't overthink it. Brain dump, okay? And then at the bottom, the cost structures, they're the costs involved in those key activities that you need to do, and the revenue streams, and that's how you're going to make money. So is it a subscription model? So you might be thinking about that for your spirits, for example, or is it a one-off product? And you can have multiple different revenue streams. There's no one or the other. And again, it might be you look at one customer, and this customer and their value proposition means that's the revenue stream for them, but a different customer segment might have a different value proposition and therefore a different revenue stream. So again, think about it. It's not overall at a business level. The variation, the Lean Business Canvas, this was an evolved version of the business model. The difference between here is it focuses, instead of the key activities and key partners, it focuses on the problem and solution. So that's a bit like coming back to that value proposition, and it's saying what are the 3 top problems and what are the 3 solutions, doing that. So I tend to, and then it also looks at the key metrics, so measures of success. I've got a template for both of those in the workbook. I would encourage you to look at both, because actually I think we want to cover both of those ideas.
Can you summarise, sorry, the 2 again quickly?
One is the business model canvas, and that covers, they've got the same elements apart from the business model canvas is key resources, key activities and key partners, whereas the lean model is on key metrics, solution and problem. So, but I think you should, when you write your business plan, you want to have considered all of those things. So, but again, just literally bullet point. We're trying to make it as quick as possible. So financial forecast. What's everyone like with finances? Has anyone done a financial forecast for the business? Pardon?
We have, yeah.
They have. Brilliant. So some people, actually this scares the life out of them, because actually if you don't do finances, I can understand that. But it's important because you need to understand, when you look at those different 9 building blocks and those models we've just looked at, you need to understand the financial needs for those. For the people, you need the manufacturing activities, you need the marketing, how much is it going to cost and what do you need? And likewise, when we're looking at these opportunities, just thinking ahead and saying, well, actually, you know, that's why it's got that cost structure at the bottom. What are those key costs that you need to do? And it's also about thinking about forecast for your sales. Now, a lot of people say, I don't know how to forecast my sales. In all honesty, there's no right or wrong answer. But if you're over egg it, you're going to fail, because you're thinking you're going to get more money in the business than you get. And then when you don't, you go, oh, so you're better off to be more pessimistic and say, actually, assuming worst case scenario, this is what it is. And the reason that's important, you can understand what cash do you need to run those activities in your business. And if you haven't already done so, looking at a personal survival budget. So what money do you need at home? So if your business makes X amount of money, how much do you need to make out of it? Cover your own costs. So one of the things I'll share with you is a financial forecast that does 3 things. One's got a P&L, profit and loss. One will have the cash flow. And the difference between your cash flow and profit and loss is that some things you might have recognised as sale or have cost in 1 month, but you might not pay for it for another month, or you might not receive the money for it another month. So most people assume that it's the same thing, but if you know there's going to be a time lag, then build that in. And the model, give me a shout, but the model does say you can sort of put a +1 if you think something's going to come in a month later, put a +1 and all stagger it. And it also includes a personal survival budget. So if you know you need to make X amount, that'll flow through into. But if there's any questions, let me know. Right, types of business plan. Said this was done a lot of planning. So as I say, there are lots of different business plans, but there's no one size fits all. But we are going to focus on you guys preparing a 1-pager, and then once you've done that, you'll try and do like almost a summarised, I'd call like a startup business plan, but it's not officially a startup plan. It's just an abbreviated traditional plan. So 1-pager. We talked about what we talked about before, Sally, was everybody said they don't have a business plan that we never see. So the advice with a lot of these things, the 1-page things, they can stick on the wall. We'll go back to. This is a good way of summarising your business. It's often referred to as a business pitch. So if, for example, you've got somebody who's potentially interested in investing money, or if you're trying to go out to get investment, having your business summarised in one page, which is big, so what? Why does somebody want to invest in you? If you've got it on one page and it summarises all the questions they've got, the problems, solutions, all the things we've discussed, that's how you attract that initial interest. And yes, they might want data later on, but it's all on one page. And it also helps you to be the focus of what's core to your business. Okay. And it's also, you know, when we first started talking, explain your business. If you can be concise about what your business does, it probably gets sold to people. You're better able to sell.
So that's what they call in American blog, they're called the elevator pitch.
Sorry.
It's what they call the
No, the elevator pitch is a lot shorter. And that would almost be sort of coming into that value proposition that we talked about.
Yeah.
I'll show you an example. So what would happen is, this is an example of a one pager that I did with a guy who's sold 2 software businesses before, and he's working on this new product which has launched, but it looks completely different, and I'm no longer involved in the business. But this was an example of a one pager that we created, and it was done like this so that we could send it out to investors and say, this is the product, this is what we do. And there's a lot of information on there, but it's all on one page. So it's got an about, it's got the problem, it's got some graphics in there, because people don't just want words. If you have graphics, say pictures, there's 1,000 words, so use pictures where you can. But it talks about business model, competition, shows actually we've done our thinking about the business. But essentially they're the sort of 9 main things that you'd be looking at, but you can get all that on one page. So what we've been doing today is doing a lot of the planning, think about the value proposition, think about the key elements of the business. The next stage is this one page. And then once you've done this, actually then when you come to write the business plan, you're just expanding out the detail a bit more. So it makes it a lot less cumbersome, and there's logic to what you've done. So with the stuff that I send you afterwards, materials, it will cover these main sections in just a bit more detail about the kind of things that you'd include in that. They say 10 main points there. You don't really want your business page to be more than 15 pages, but you know, your business plan really needs to be first and foremost for you guys to know, actually this is a plan as to how we're going to grow the business and the key things. Have you answered all the questions we've talked about today? If you have, get it down on paper. If you were to give it to a bank to borrow money, or an investor, they see hundreds of business plans every day. So your business plan needs to stand out. What's the so what? And quite often they will go with gut instinct first and foremost. The numbers will come, but they will know very quickly. So there's no point making it super long. You've got to be really concise and say it's a problem. So who was you were talking earlier, you went back with investors. Yeah, and they were really excited about the product. So you know, that's gut instinct. They've not even looked at any of the numbers. This is a good product. So when you create your business plan, there's no right or wrong way to do it. If you had the identical business to somebody else, your business plans would probably be completely different, because it's about you as individuals. It's about how you've assessed the market, and it's about how you're going to drive your business forward. But as I say, work on that value proposition. We've identified the key elements of your business model. If you look at those 2 canvases, write down problems, summarise those things, get it down on paper on that one page. But literally 20 minutes on those canvases. Don't spend more than that to do that. So if you can spend hours overthinking something and not actually get the answers, usually it's the first thing that comes to mind. Complete your SWOT analysis. You've obviously put some stuff down on there, and I'll share the pictures. But essentially do that SWOT analysis, and likewise competition. And it may be you don't do the competitive analysis in great detail now, but you need to know who your competition is, either somebody doing a similar product, or if you're competing for somebody's money and get that product. So for example, if we talk about the schools might have a finite budget, and they're going to give the money to you for X, or they're going to give it to somebody else, and therefore it's what you're competing with. Draft your one pager. You'll see at the back of the workbook, literally, I've done it like that. So we're not talking vast amounts of information. So there's only so much you can put on the page. And then once you've done that, drafting the financial plan, I've made it really nice and simple for you. So hopefully just think about the cost, and then you can add the details to your plan. So top tips, really. Be honest, challenge yourself. So it's really hard to be objective with yourself, but really challenge it. Does it, you know? And if you're not sure, speak families, friends, or somebody else that you want, you know, an opinion. Don't be realistic. Don't overcommit. So as I say, be realistic about your sales. What is achievable? If you're trying to do those 10 things next month, you won't achieve it all. What can you realistically achieve? And show you really understand your business. If you understand your business, you've understood the strengths, you've understood the threats, you're better prepared as to what needs to be done. And be passionate. Show the reader why you believe in it. If you don't show the passion, they're not going to be passionate about it either. Okay. And obviously, the biggest mistake you can make is not creating a plan. As I said, some people don't do it and they get through by luck. But actually, this helps keep you on the straight, you know, keeps you on track to what you're trying to achieve. Next steps. So I'll send through some materials or some templates and you'll start working on your first draft. So to Sally, in terms of we've got 2 one-to-ones that we're going to be going through it. So we've currently suggested the week commencing the 5th to go through the first draft and the week commencing the 26th. Does that still work, Sally?
It's work with them,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So don't know whether that works for you guys, but could you do me a favour? Can you all go back and just come back to me with your availability those weeks? And then I can try and jog you all around to fit you all in. Yes.
A suggestion,
Yes.
or Calendly,
I've got Calendly.
can really help.
I will change. I could potentially change it. The reason I was going to do it is it's currently set up for half-hour sessions because otherwise I get clients phoning me and booking them for 2 hours. So if you change it, but I could.
You can add a special type. You don't have
So I
to
can
change
change
it.
it.
You can add a new one.
So I might do that, and then is there anybody that thinks they can't do either of those weeks?
Can't do the latter half of the second one, definitely.
Let's get early. Both my deadlines. But if it's a problem, let me know because it doesn't have to be fixed into that. It's just a kind of Sally and I were just trying to work through what would make sense, given everything else that you guys are going to be working on.
You're doing your marketing plan when it gets to July, so you really do want to get this done in June. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter if we fit things around fit with you and Kate, but you need to be thinking, okay. And by the way, you don't have to have everything 100% perfect because Kate's going to be coming back in end of June, isn't it, that you're doing finance?
Yes.
Yes, end of June, Kate is coming back and she'll be going through finance. So it might be, you know, once Kate's been, you will go revisit what you've done with your business plan and go, actually, having seen her session, I want to change, you know, my figures. Having heard the legal person in a few weeks, I might, you know, want to change some bits and pieces. So when you've finished these with Kate, this isn't set in stone. You'll be filling things in as we do the sessions as we go along. But the idea is to get the main thought processes all down on paper, and then we can start driving you forward for the next few months.
Yeah. Day job potentially gets in the way of the 5th. We commence on the 5th.
Okay. So, but just let me if there's another time that sort of works.
Yeah.
But it's essentially, you know, I wanted to give you guys time to be able to sort of sit down and do it. But you know, say it's an evolving thing. But if we don't commit to getting something down, even if it's a draft, then you'll find that actually suddenly everything gets in the way and it never gets done. So your marketing strategy, you might have an initial marketing plan as to what you're going to do, but when you have your marketing strategy session, that completely changed. But that's the whole point. It's evolving. Again, if you've got those 1 pages, the key thing is getting all the 1 pages done. And then just start as a first draft, and then we can run through it and go, okay, so what are the things that you're having trouble with most? Okay.
Just Teams call.
Pardon?
Just a Teams call, is it?
Yes, we can do Teams. Yeah, that's what I think was the plan of action, to do Teams call.
Yeah.
So,
would you like us to send you through something before that meeting?
if you've done stuff, that'd be hopefully you will have done stuff. If you
Yeah.
can, that'd be great. Because I will try and then spend,
You can read through it and
just go right. Otherwise, it'll be spending time on the call together doing that in the first place. So it'd be better to say, right, okay, these are things that stand out. And then I'm better able to be objective about it. Remember, what I say isn't necessarily the right or wrong answer, but actually I will be coming at it as if I'm a consumer or business. So actually, if it's not clear to me when I first read it, then we know it needs to be fine tuned.
So just to be clear in my head, so for that fifth, week beginning the fifth is to probably the week before Thursday, Friday, send something through to you, which would be the one pager plus maybe draft of a business plan.
Exactly. So, you know, and it maybe you've just got to, you know, you've got your business plan, you've filled in a few sections of it,
Yeah.
but you're like, I've got no idea what to do
stuff.
here. But, you know, if we go back and look at that plan, so, you know, executive summary, if you've done your one pager, technically executive summary is something you write at the end. It really is your one pager. So if you've done this, you're then able to sort of write that up quite succinctly. Product service, well, you know what that is, and we've talked about that. And it may be that service might change slightly based on what we've talked about, the value proposition. Market analysis, if you haven't already done it, we've not necessarily covered that in detail, but that is actually look at the size of the market. And we could sit there, I think you put on there, didn't you? 1.7 billion is the size of the gym market. There are lots of different ways that you look at a market, and it could be massive, but you can't support everyone. So as an example for what I do, I can help anyone. I help individuals, I help businesses. And I could say, I help everyone. But in terms of my marketing, I don't specialize in that. So, you know, if somebody comes to me and says, I need help, as long as they're not doing anything bad towards the planet, I'll help them. But my marketing and everything I do on my website is focused towards sustainable and purpose-led businesses. So my market analysis, rather than saying there's this many people who have businesses, I say there's this many people who've got ethical businesses, and I focus generally in sort of the local area. Not to say I wouldn't help somewhere, but I'm not. So my current market analysis that I'm focusing on is there. Again, the reason it's important is if you've got a massive market that you're tackling, how are you going to market them? They've all got those different needs that we've talked about. Being more focused about what you are, that helps. But knowing what the size of the market is great, because A, it knows about how you're going to drive it, not just now, but 3 years' time. So if you've got more products that you can launch out to them, but also in terms of if you're trying to get investment, they want to know how many people are out there that are going to buy this product. Competitive analysis we've talked about, sales and marketing plan. In the marketing you'll flesh out, but think about how, you know, what are those channels? You'll have done it in there. What are the channels that you're planning on selling to those people? Is it through retailers? Is it through wholesalers? Operational overview, and that's more to do with how you're making your product, how you're delivering your service, all those key things, and pointing out what the, you know, again, this is the key activities that were covered on that business canvas. Milestones and KPIs we haven't covered, but have to think about that. But then that's something we can talk about. So how do you know that your business is succeeding? How do you know that you're on track? How do you know if you're going off track? If you don't know, and suddenly your business, you know, the sales have gone down, or the conversion ratios we've talked about gone down, it might not be big now, but further on down the line, it drops off. Then company overview is just sort of who you are, what the business does, cash flow stuff and funding requirements. So if you're after money and you want to borrow money, how much do you need and why? And you need an exit strategy. So it's saying to people, actually, if you're going to invest money into the business, they want money out at the end of it. So how are they going to get that money out? Is it going to be in 3 years' time? And how? Is it because you're selling to another company that's going to buy you? Or is it because you're going to sell to an MBO, like other people in the management team that might be buying out? Again, it's not set in stone. That might change. But it's just put it down on paper, brain dump, and then we can talk about it. All right.
So are you sending through the slides from today?
Going to send through slides today and lots of other materials and templates. I've got detail as to sort of what you'd include under these sections, but I've not provided this is a business plan template. And the reason for that is because there's lots of different ways of doing it. Every business is different. But I'm going to send as useful as anyone heard of HubSpot?
Yeah.
They're like a CRM provider, but they provide loads of templates. So I'll actually share one of the folders of lots of templates you can use, and it just gives you food for thought. Actually, I like that. But I didn't want anyone to think I've got to do it. Okay.
Fine, thank you.
It's still recording. We still.
Biscuits. You breathe. Hopefully you're breathing during the session.
I was breathing all to that.